Problem solved.
It was Thomas's fault.
One, now we can sign it.
I just walked across the street to that gas station about student network. Oh, okay. It's like that. So then Dave said we could have here. I'll look at
Good morning. My name is Kathy Williams, and I will be your worship associate this morning. Please stand as you are willing and able and join us in singing our opening hymn, number 347 in your gray hymnal, Gather the Spirit.
Good morning. My name is Nora Mulligan, and I am the Vice President, still, of the Board of Trustees. We haven't had our election yet. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of the Hudson Valley. Whether you have been with this congregation a decade or more, or this is your first time visiting, we welcome you. Whatever the faith and traditions of your past, we welcome you. Whatever your theological stance, we welcome you. Whoever you are and whomever you love, we welcome you. Whatever your heritage, we welcome you. We respectfully acknowledge the territory on which our church building sits as the ancestral homeland of the Munsee, Lenape, and Wappinger people. We have a few announcements. Summer services begin next Sunday, June 26th. We are delighted that, like last summer, we'll be sharing the pulpit with the First Unitarian Society of Westchester. UUCHV will lead every other service starting next Sunday. The services we lead will be available to both our congregation and First Unitarian Society of Westchester in person and via streaming, just like we do now. You will find the dates in our next e-news, and we will get them onto the website as well. The services that FUSW leads will be available only on Zoom, like last summer. The UUCHV building will be closed on those Sundays, so don't come here expecting to see the service. Links for all of this will be available in the e-news and the Saturday email, but please mark your calendars for the 6 Sundays that our building will be open to be present for live services. It'll be every other Sunday, starting with next Sunday, June 26th. Feel free to speak with Ann, Kathy, or Nanette if you have any questions. Everyone who lent their artwork for the current show, you may take it down. And finally, we are going to have cake as part of our celebration after the service. It'll be outside, so please join us if you are able. For the most up-to-date information, please refer to our weekly e-newsletter and check our website frequently. The website is also the place where you can find contact information for our staff, Board of Trustees, and other congregational leaders. And please join us for conversation and cake after the service. If you are present in the sanctuary, please feel free to stay right here, join us outside. If you're watching the live stream, the link for the coffee hour will be found in the Saturday reminder in your email and also on our website. If you are just recently joining us and would like to receive our weekly e-news, please email us with your name and we will make sure you're added to our e-news list. We can also answer any questions you may have. Email us at uucroton@gmail.com or fill out one of the yellow cards in the back of the pews, just like that, and drop it in the collection plate. Please silence your cell phone if you're in the sanctuary at this time. And once again, we welcome you to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of the Hudson Valley.
We gather here this morning. May we reach out and connect to each other with our eyes, seeing friends old and new, with our ears, listening to each other, with our hands, touching, holding, hugging each other, with our souls, recognizing our inherent interconnections with each other and with all of life. That is the nature and purpose of our worship here, together, today. Welcome.
For sleepless nights awaiting the curfew breakers, for anxious hours as a driving instructor, for hours spent on sidelines cheering and watching school plays, sometimes resting our eyes, for the pressures of breadwinning and wait till your father gets home, for teaching moments and mentoring moments, for making up answers when you just don't know, but are expected to because you know everything, for scrapes and boo-boo kisses and Band-Aids, for hugs and kisses and silliness and play, for bedtime stories and early morning ice time, for all the aftershave and ties received as gifts, for handing over car keys and waves goodbye, for father-daughter wedding dances and cradling grandchildren for the first time, for all the moments and all the meaning in the role of a lifetime. We light our chalice for fathers and fatherhood. Now please join me in saying our unison affirmation. The words are in your order of service. Inspired by love, our mission is to seek our true nature, connect deeply and openly, and act for justice. Let us now bear witness to the joys and sorrows experienced in our community. If you have a brief yet personally significant joy or sorrow that you are willing to share, please come up to the microphone. Speak directly into the mic so that everyone, including the people watching at home, can hear you. If you would prefer to only have a candle lit without speaking, please just stand and I will light a candle for you.
Hi, I'm Megan, and I have a joy that it is Father's Day and that Maggie's dad is such a great dad, and he is out there with the kids this morning.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lourdes. I haven't been here in a long time. I have missed you so much, and I'm sorry I haven't been here. I've gone through a rough time. But I just wanted to say two things. One is a joy, and a joy is to have met all of you here in this fellowship since 2000. My kids grew up here in this community, and I want to thank you all. That's a joy I have in my heart that I will take with me. And a joy and a sorrow is that I'm moving to Florida in the summer, and I'm excited because I'll be close to my family, and it is a very important time for all of us to be together. And I thank you for everything.
Hi, everyone. I'm Pat Krugman. I'm making up for lost time for not being here the last 2 years, so I'm back. I have a joy. For many years, I've organized my preschool children and their families to go to Ward Pound Ridge for Dark Sky Night, Starway to Heaven. It's now called Star Parties. And they go out near the new moon to see all the planets, and the Westchester's amateur astronomers set up their telescopes so the kids can see the planets. I joined them last week. I went to my first lecture. I'm now a member of the Westchester Amateur Astronomers. And I would like to say, I will be out at 4 o'clock in the morning on a clear morning. This week, there is a very rare alignment of 5 planets with the naked eye. The only 2 that you can't see are not in the right alignment from the sun. So if you want to join me, let me know.
Hi, I'm Nora. I guess it's a joy. I performed on cello at a recital in Peekskill yesterday. It was not a brilliant performance, but I did it.
My name is Karen Sue, and in keeping with kind of a little theme today, I haven't been here physically in a while. Oh, boy. But I've felt all of your love, and it has kept me really, really living. So, and I'm so thankful to be back. Thank you all.
Hello, I'm Kelly Higgins. I became a UU in Huntsville, Alabama in about 1994. And through a conspiracy of circumstances, I found myself in Thailand teaching English and stayed there for 16 years. And just decided a few months ago, I want to move back to America. I've never lived in the Northeast. I'm from Los Angeles. And well, I moved to Huntsville, but I'm originally from Los Angeles. So I just moved here a week ago. I'm working as a program manager at that pharmaceutical company called Regeneron. I deal with the audio-visual stuff. So I got a great job and nothing else. I just bought a car yesterday. I'm living out of a boarding house. So the only thing I need is everything. But I knew if I came to the local Unitarian Church, having done this at a few places around America over the years, I knew I'd find some very welcoming, very intelligent, and good-humored people. So glad to meet all of you. Thank you very much. Anybody needs a part-time ESL teacher, I still do that on the side.
You're in the right place.
We also acknowledge all the unspoken joys and sorrows held within the sanctuary of our hearts, and all those people who have yet to find a spiritual home where they can share their joys and sorrows.
I invite you now to join in the spirit of meditation. You may wish to do so by sitting up a bit straighter, putting your feet flat on the floor to ground you to the earth. Close your eyes if you wish, or leave them just slightly open. And take in a nice deep breath and gently release it, releasing all of the stress of the week. Love is one of the best lubricants to facilitate learning despite the ego. There is the love that others have for us, making of our mistakes nothing more than a passing event that does not define our inner worth. The same love makes others never feel superior to us because they know more than we do. This same love makes others happy when we succeed and proud of us when we surpass them. There is the love that we have for others, which makes us react to them in a similar fashion. And then there is the love we should all have for learning. When we love learning, our identity is not wrapped anymore in what we know. It becomes wrapped in learning. Someone presenting a new and better idea to us becomes a source of joy as we are able to adjust our knowledge for the better. Interestingly enough, this love for learning makes us love those that are learning with us and those that contribute to our learning. This is why an environment imbued with love is so important to learning and therefore to both our personal development and to the building of our communities. Let us be together now in a moment of silent meditation.
It is true, of course, that what is an unspeakable gift of God for the lonely individual is easily disregarded and trodden underfoot by those who have the gift every day. It is easily forgotten that the fellowship of brethren is a gift of grace, a gift of the kingdom of God that any day may be taken from us, that the time that still separates us from utter loneliness may be brief indeed. Therefore, let him who until now has had the privilege of living a common life with other believers praise God's grace from the bottom of his heart. Let him thank God on his knees and declare, it is grace, nothing but grace, that we are allowed to live in community with brethren. The measure with which God bestows the gift of visible community is varied. The believer in exile is comforted by a brief visit of a brother or sister, a prayer together, and a sister's and brother's blessing. Indeed, he or she is strengthened by a letter written by the hand of a believer. The greetings in the letters written with Paul's own hand were doubtless tokens of such community. Others are given the gift of common worship on Sundays. Still, others have the privilege of living a faithful life in the fellowship of their families. Seminarians, before their ordination, receive the gift of common life with their brethren for a definite period. Among earnest believers in the church today, there is a growing desire to meet together with other believers in the rest period of their work for common life under the Word. Communal life is again being recognized by believers today as the grace that it is, as the extraordinary, the roses and lilies of the believer life.
Well, Jaceel, that was a mistake, putting them right before my sermon. That's a tough act to follow. Jeez. Well, it is such a joy, as always, to have my boys, Thomas and Matthew, joining me today, especially blessed time because today is Father's Day. So I ask my fellow fathers to join me in being recognized. If you are a father, biological, adopted, foster, step, or if someone in your life calls you father because you play that role, please rise as you are willing and able so that we can give you a hand in celebrating today. Thank you, gentlemen. It was funny, people coming up here talking about it their first Sunday. I wanted to say, it's a great place, just don't get attached to the minister. In honor of this being my last sermon here at UUCHV, I decided to make it something of a direct sequel to my first sermon with you, Back in Black. Ever since that sermon first came on Zoom, it made quite an impression at the time. Seeing AC/DC rock out over Zoom was not anything anyone seemed to be expecting. Just the tip of the iceberg when it came to Reverend Josh and his fun video clips. It seemed an appropriate tone, set the tone just the right way. Well, as we heard from Dietrich Bonhoeffer, one of my favorite Christian theologians, life together is both hard and also a blessing. One has to seek both the lesson and the gift when dealing with groups of Unitarian Universalists greater than 3. At my last board meeting, Sherry Brown asked me what I had learned as minister at UUCHV, because I had said in my board report that I had learned a lot. And immediately I knew that that was today's message. Not just what I learned, but what you all learned. For while I grew, so did you. Someone once described a small church as a grapevine that happens to come together once a week. Actually, my favorite metaphor for this ministry is that the minister is the lifeguard at the beach where a large family is holding their family reunion. And if they're nice, they'll invite you to join them for a little while. You can have a hot dog, maybe even a hamburger, maybe even a beer. But never forget your first priority: don't let them drown. And here we are 2 years later with some bumps and bruises perhaps, but none the worse for wear. When you look back at everything that's happened, that we've been up against together, that's a pretty impressive accomplishment in and of itself. If you recall, 2 years ago, the church had experienced a terrible conflict with their called minister, which resulted in a negotiated resignation. A month later, the lockdown happened, and all church activities, including worship, had to be done over Zoom. I spent the first year of my ministry among you not knowing how tall people were because all I could ever interact with was from their neck up. I think the UUA has to commission a badge or something for all Unitarian Universalists to wear that said, "I did church in the pandemic." However, we did more than just survive. The church has met and exceeded expectations in meeting the challenges before us. One of the most obvious accomplishments was the creation of the Allies for Racial Equity and affirming the 8th principle last year. I don't think I've ever seen, I'm pretty sure I've said this a few different places to folks, but I don't think I've ever seen people come back from General Assembly 2 or 3 years ago, I guess, and actually follow through on what the General Assembly was asking them to do. But a group of people who experienced GA 2 years ago did exactly that. It was a true pleasure working with them on sermons and coordinating programs. The 8th principle was overwhelmingly affirmed, and more importantly, this church has a firm commitment to anti-racism and dismantling white supremacy. The story of how that all unfolded inspired me, and you should all be rightfully proud of the work you have done and the work you will continue to do in anti-oppression work. Of course, the COVID pandemic affected everything over the past 2 years. Normally, when there is a national or an international tragedy, the first impulse that religious people have is to come together. But in a pandemic, you can't do that. You have to do the opposite of that. Stay 6 feet apart. It took from us the most precious gift we have, which is in-person community. Hopefully, we will never again take that gift for granted. Of course, there are lessons to be learned from it. We learned one of the most basic lessons, I think, of all, that the church is not the building. The church is the people that make it up. Even if we do not come together in this building physically, we are connected through our common covenant and our shared sense of mission. I learned the corollary for ministers, which is ministry is not about where you are physically, it is about how well you connect with the people you serve. Certainly, Zoom is not my first choice in accomplishing that, but it was the best any of us could do for a minute there. Nevertheless, ministry is about connecting with people regardless of the technological limitations of doing so. Though in a strange way, the pandemic taught us some valuable lessons. You can't be in denial about COVID. If you do, you could die or expose others who could die. It's just that plain. So we tried different things between Zoom and live stream and in-person and hybrid worship. All of them were attempts to adapt to that reality as it presented itself to us. I think if I could give a title or a caption to my time as your minister, I think it would be called Dealing with Reality, which is not fun most of the time. And yet it was when we faced the hard facts head on and dealt with it that I find those times are when I beam with pride the most. As we came upon the halfway point in my ministry here last year, it became clear that Project Hudson Valley needed a course correction. This was not a welcome message to everyone. The campaign represented an important time in the life of the congregation. However, the sands of fate had shifted enough that we could no longer operate on the same set of assumptions we had when Project Hudson Valley launched. And as hard as it would be, we needed a new vision. And then we crafted that new vision at the board retreat. Man, it seemed, when we finally had that vision before us when we were at that retreat last summer, it seemed like it would be like turning the Titanic around. But you know what? The board had some really good driving questions at the town hall meeting that winter, and it moved the ball forward in a significant way, thus proving once again the old maxim of doing church. Nothing beats a direct and honest communication or conversation with people. So it's a good thing that we were practiced at facing the hard facts of reality when we learned that our staff should have been paid money into their benefits for the past 8 years. This was not on anybody's radar screen when the year began, but we don't always get to call the shots. Fortunately, Project Hudson Valley was set up so that people could redirect their contributions, and this allowed us to compensate our staff fairly, pay in all the money we owed, plus a little extra that they would have earned, and most importantly of all, correct an injustice that was done to our staff and making things right again. That is something you should definitely be proud of. And those are just the big things that happened in the last 2 years. There were also chairs and cushions that mysteriously went missing, tech difficulties of every kind on Zoom, despite volunteers who went above and beyond, a false alarm with the fire alarm that went off 10 minutes before worship began, and one dead mouse in the basement that made the building smell horrible and attracted so many flies they attacked our office administrator Rita when she tried to enter the building. You should have seen that email exchange, let me tell you. Not a happy camper. And there were also the beautiful works of art in our sanctuary, but also the ones our kids posted on the street. Numerous pastoral conversations I had with many of you that will remain confidential until I die. We hosted 2 plays, a wedding and a funeral for the community, just because we wanted to be available to our friends and neighbors. And finally, we were able to party together at the church auction last month. Whew, that's a lot. I thought about renaming this sermon not Back in Black 2, but rather, What a Long, Strange Trip It's Been. But I'm a sucker for symmetry, so I think Back in Black, though, does apply. Now, I'm quite certain you don't remember the first sermon entitled that, when I said it at least, in August of 2020. I used that song and that idea because I was kind of reclaiming my call to UU ministry after nearly a year of being away. And this place was an opportunity for me to spread my wings in a new way, to try new things in ministry, retry some old things to see how they work, and just see how ministry felt again in midlife. Clearly, this has been a very transformational time in my life. I got engaged, and I'm on the cusp of a new ministry that brings me closer to my boys and the rest of my family. In other words, all of my dreams come true. And none of that would be possible, and I'm quite sure, without the opportunity that you all gave me in letting me serve as your minister. And for that, UUCHV has my eternal gratitude. Being back in black is about looking forward more than backward. It's about coming back from adversity in a big bad way that is even more impressive than the original. That's the confidence that that song conveys. One of the next steps for this church, of course, is the arrival of the Reverend Daniel Lawler in August. Congratulations, by the way, on finding a minister. I didn't want to say some of this stuff early in the process because I didn't want to raise anxiety, but that's actually a really big accomplishment this year that you should be proud of because there is a pretty severe minister shortage going on in Unitarian Universalism right now. And this is part of a larger trend of baby boomer ministers retiring. However, the pandemic has prompted kind of what they call the Great Resignation among ministers of all denominational stripes. Can't tell you how many of my friends, close personal friends of mine, who've been doing ministry for a long time, decided at some point in the pandemic that they were headed towards the exit. I'm not speaking for Reverend Lawler, of course, but landing another contract minister is a good sign of health around here. It means that UUCHV is an attractive position and a good place to do ministry. When I was in the Cub Scouts, we had a rule whenever we went camping that was to leave the place better than you found it. And I like to think that I've been able to do that here. Reverend Daniel and I have spoken, and we have plans to continue to be in conversation during his transition. As many of you know, when I become your former minister in August, I can't maintain direct relationships with lay people, but I can with the colleague who serves in that place. It was fun coming up with different secrets that I could think of to share with him. I keep super secret dossier files on all of you, and I turned these over to him, along with all your permanent records from high school. No, I'm kidding, of course. But there were a few patterns, some trajectories that I see UUCHV doing, and I shared those with him. I thought I'd share them with you. This is in the spirit of, you're doing good work, keep it up after I leave. The first is around boundaries. Some of you may remember Sunshine Wolf leading a workshop on boundaries shortly after I arrived as your minister. This was a super insightful workshop for me, and I've found coming back to it again and again to be helpful. Know your boundaries and be willing to speak up for them. Saying no, even and especially to your friends when needed, is hard, but sometimes necessary. I've seen this from everything from the Sharing and Caring Committee to the Worship Committee to how finance works and to the board itself. Over the past 2 years, you've been getting stronger at setting appropriate boundaries among yourself. Keep it up. You are doing great. Healthy boundaries make a healthy church. The other pattern I see, and one that I hope continues into the future, is working with other UU congregations. You heard earlier about the partnership we have with the folks in Hastings to share summer services, both last year and this year. When we were working on the 8th principle last year, folks reached out to the White Plains congregation and others in the Hudson Valley for doing joint programming, some adult RE and book discussion groups around anti-racism. I think that's fantastic, and I hope that you look to connect with other churches in the area. You know, in Westchester County and other parts of the Hudson Valley, there are a lot of small to mid-sized UU churches all struggling with the same issues: money, building, staff. What would it look like to come together, to merge together, to work together around some of the common challenges and share resources? I think there's some exciting possibilities down that road, particularly for the long-term health of the church. Remember, ministry is all about how well you connect, even if you can't be there in person. When I first talked to Keith Cron at the UUA, Keith Cron is the head of the transitions office at the UUA. He's been doing it for years, and he's kind of the guru around minister and congregations and search. When I spoke to him about coming to Croton-on-Hudson to do ministry, he had one piece of advice: just love them, he said. They've been through so much. They need to rebuild trust in ministry. I shared that with Evan Carvel-Zemer, who said, yes, just love them. And I think I can say without hesitation, mission accomplished. I love you, and I have felt your love and generosity through the many kind words and gestures you have expressed to me over the past weeks and months, and really over the last 2 years. It has moved me, it means a lot to me, and I shall take you with me into my next ministry and beyond. Thank you for all of the gifts and lessons, hard-won and otherwise. I'm so very grateful. I love you all truly. Keep on trucking. If you remember that sermon. Amen and blessed be. I invite you now to rise as you are willing and able and join in singing hymn number 354, We Laugh, We Cry.
We laugh, we cry.
Each week, we make an offering from the bounty we are blessed to enjoy. We do this in a spirit of love and generosity, aware we have benefited from those who have gone before, those who in their turn gave generously. Our offering goes to support the work of love and justice undertaken by this community. Today's offering will also be shared with Neighbors Link. Please refer to our e-newsletter or website for more information. You can make your donation in several ways. If present in the sanctuary, you may give cash or a check in the offering plate as it comes by. You may also scan the QR code in your order of service. From your homes, you can make your donation via credit card or PayPal using the links provided in the e-newsletter. Please remember to give a little extra to compensate for the 3% surcharge, or if you prefer, you can always mail us a check. The offering will now be given and gratefully received. Beginning of that offering, and I said, we should make you get up here and dance. We could ask Josille to play it again, but all right, no, let's move on. Please join me in the dedication of the offering. The words are in your order of service. May these gifts and the work of our hands and hearts give power to all we stand for as a community of faith. And now please join me in extinguishing the chalice. The words are also found in your order of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
I don't think Angus Young could have done better. That was fantastic. May the love which overcomes all differences, which heals all wounds, which puts to flight all fears, which reconciles all who are separated, be in us and among us, now and always. Amen.
Thank you.